Chapter 11. Saul rescues the town of Jabesh in Gilead. About this time, King Nahash of Ammon came with his army and surrounded the town of Jabesh in Gilead. The people who lived there told Nahash, "If you will sign a peace treaty with us, you can be our ruler, and we will pay taxes to you." Nahash answered, "Certainly I'll sign a treaty, but not before I insult Israel by putting out the right eye of every man who lives in Jabesh." The town leaders said, "Give us 7 days so we can send messengers everywhere in Israel to ask for help. If no one comes here to save us, we will surrender to you." Some of the messengers went to Gibeah, Saul's hometown. They told what was happening at Jabesh, and everyone in Gilead started crying. Just then Saul came in front from the fields, walking behind his oxen. "Why is everyone crying?" Saul asked. They told him what the men from Jabesh had said. Then the Spirit of God suddenly took control of Saul and made him furious. Saul killed 2 of his oxen, cut them up in pieces, and gave the pieces to the messengers. He told them to show the pieces to everyone in Israel and say, "Saul and Samuel are getting an army together. Come and join them. If you don't, this is what will happen to your oxen." The Lord made the people of Israel terribly afraid. So all the men came together at Bezek. Saul had them organized and counted. There were 300,000 from Israel and 30,000 from Judah. Saul and his officers sent the messengers back to Jabesh with his promise, "We will rescue you tomorrow afternoon." The messengers went back to the people at Jabesh and told them that they were going to be rescued. Everyone was encouraged, so they told the Ammonites, "We will surrender to you tomorrow, and then you can do whatever you want to." The next day, Saul divided his army into 3 groups and attacked before daylight. They started killing Ammonites and kept it up until afternoon. A few Ammonites managed to escape, but they were scattered far from each other. The Israelite soldiers went to Samuel and they demanded, "Where are the men who said they didn't want Saul to be king? Bring them to us, and we will put them to death." "No, you won't." Saul told them, "The Lord rescued Israel today, and no one will be put to death." Saul is accepted as king. "Come on," Samuel said. "Let's go to Gilgal and make an agreement that Saul will continue to be our king." Everyone went to the place of worship at Gilgal, where they agreed that Saul would be their king. Saul and the people sacrificed animals to ask for the Lord's blessing, and they had a big celebration. Samuel's farewell speech, chapter 12. Samuel told the Israelites, "I have given you a king, just as you asked. You have seen how I have led you ever since I was a young man. I'm already old. My hair is gray, and my own sons are grown up. Now you must see how well your king will lead you. Let me ask this. Have I ever taken anyone's ox or donkey or forced you to give me anything? Have I ever hurt anyone or taken a bribe to give an unfair decision? Answer me so the Lord and his chosen king can hear you. And if I have done any of these things, I will give it all back." "No," the Israelites answered. "You've never cheated us in any way." Samuel said, "The Lord and his chosen king are witnesses to what you have said." "That's true," they replied. Then Samuel told them, "The Lord brought your ancestors out of Egypt and chose Moses and Aaron to be your leaders. Now the Lord will be your judge. So stand there here and listen, while I remind you how often the Lord has saved you and your ancestors from your enemies. After Jacob went to Egypt, your ancestors cried out to the Lord for help, and he sent Moses and Aaron. They led your ancestors out of Egypt and settled them in this land. But your ancestors forgot the Lord, so he let them be defeated by the Philistines, the king of Moab, and Sarah, the commander of Hazor's army. Again, your ancestors cried out to the Lord for help. They said, "We have sinned. We stopped worshiping you, our Lord, and started worshiping Baal and Ashtart. But now, if you rescue us from our enemies, we will worship you." The Lord sent Gideon, Bedan, Jephthah, and Samuel to rescue you from your enemies, and you didn't have to worry about being attacked. Then you saw that King Nahash of Ammon was going to attack you. And even though the Lord your God is your king, you told me this time it's different. We want a king to rule us. You asked for a king, and you chose one. Now he stands here where all of you can see him, but it was really the Lord who made him your king. If you and your king want to be followers of the Lord, you must worship him and do what he says. Don't be stubborn. If you are stubborn and refuse to obey the Lord, he will turn against you and your king. Just stand here and watch the Lord show his mighty power. Isn't this the dry season? I'm going to ask the Lord to send the thunderstorm. When you see it, you will realize how long you were to ask for a king. Samuel prayed, and that same day the Lord sent a thunderstorm. Everyone was afraid of the Lord and of Samuel. They told Samuel, "Please pray to the Lord your God for us. We don't want to die. We have sinned many times in the past, and we were very wrong to ask for a king." Samuel answered, "Even though what you did was wrong, you don't need to be afraid. But you must always follow the Lord and worship him with all your heart. Don't worship idols. They don't have any power and they can't help you or save you when you're in trouble. But the Lord has chosen you to be his own people. He will always take care of you so that everyone will know how great he is. I would be disobeying the Lord if I stopped praying for you. I will always teach you how to live right. You also must obey the Lord. You must worship him with all your heart and remember that great things he has done for you. But if you and your king do evil, the Lord will wipe you out." Saul disobeys the Lord, and the Lord rejects him as king. Chapter 13. Saul was a young man when he became king, and he ruled Israel for 2 years. Then he chose 3,000 men from Israel to be full-time soldiers and sent everyone else home. 2,000 of these troops stayed with him in the hills around Michmash and Bethel. The other 1,000 were stationed with Jonathan at Gibeah in the territory of Benjamin. Jonathan led an attack on the Philistine army camp at Gibeah. The Philistine camp was destroyed, but the other Philistines heard what had happened. Then Saul told his messengers, "Go to every village in the country. Give a signal with the trumpet, and when the people come together, tell them what has happened." The messengers then said to the people of Israel, "Saul has destroyed the Philistine army camp at Gibeah. Now the Philistines really hate Israel, so every town and village must send men to join Saul's army at Gilgal." The Philistines called their army together to fight Israel. They had 3,000 chariots, 6,000 cavalry, and as many foot soldiers as there are grains of sand on the beach. They went to Michmash and set up camp there east of Beth Aven. The Israelites' army realized that they were outnumbered and were going to lose the battle. Some of the Israelites' men hid in caves or in clumps of bushes, and some ran to places where they could hide among large rocks. Others hid in tombs or in deep, dry pits. Still others went to Gad and Gilead on the other side of the river Jordan. Saul stayed at Gilgal. His soldiers were as shaking with fear, and they were starting to run off and leave him. Saul waited there 7 days, just as Samuel had ordered him to do, but Samuel did not come. Finally, Saul commanded, "Bring me some animals so we can offer sacrifices to please the Lord and ask for his help." Saul killed one of the animals, and just as he was placing it on the altar, Samuel arrived. Saul went out to welcome him. "What have you done?" Samuel asked. Saul answered, "My soldiers were leaving in all directions, and you didn't come when you were supposed to. The Philistines were gathering at Michmash, and I was worried that they would attack me here at Gilgal. I hadn't offered a sacrifice to ask for the Lord's help, so I forced myself to offer a sacrifice on the altar fire. That was stupid, Samuel said. You didn't obey the Lord your God. If you had obeyed him, someone from your family would always have been king of Israel. But no, you disobeyed, and so the Lord won't choose anyone else from your family to be king. In fact, he has already chosen the one he wants to be the next leader of his people. Then Samuel left Gilgal. Part of Saul's army had not deserted him, and he led them to Gibeah in Benjamin to join his other troops. Then he counted them and found that he still had 600 men. Saul, Jonathan, and their army set up camp at Gibeah in Benjamin. Jonathan attacked the Philistines. The Philistine army was camped at Michmash. Each day they sent out patrols to attack and rob villages and then destroy them. One patrol would go north along the road to Ophrah in the region of Shoal. Another patrol would go west along the road to Beth Horon. A third patrol would go east towards the desert on the road to the ridge that overlooks the Zeboim Valley. The Philistines would not allow any Israelites to learn how to make iron tools. If we allowed that, they said, those worthless Israelites would make swords and spears. Whenever the Israelites wanted to get an iron put on a cattle prod, they had to go to the Philistines. Even if they wanted to sharpen plow blades, picks, axes, sickles, and pitchforks, they still had to go to them, and the Philistines charged high prices. So whenever the Israelite soldiers had to go into battle, none of them had a sword or a spear, except Saul and his son Jonathan. The Philistines moved their camp to the pass at Michmash. Chapter 14. And Saul was in Geba with his 600 men. Saul's own tent was set up under a fruit tree by the threshing place at the edge of town. Ahijah was serving as priest, and one of his jobs was to get answers from the Lord for Saul. Ahijah's father was Ahitub, and his father's brother was Ichabod. Ahijah's grandfather was Phinehas, and his great-grandfather Eli had been the Lord's priest at Shiloh. One day, Jonathan told the soldier who carried his weapons that he wanted to attack the Philistine camp on the other side of the valley. So they slipped out of the Israelite camp without anyone knowing it. Jonathan didn't even tell his father he was leaving. Jonathan decided to get to the Philistine camp by going through the pass that led between Shiny Cliff and Michmash to the north and Thornbush Cliff and Geba to the south. Jonathan and the soldier who carried his weapons talked as they went towards the Philistine camp. It's just the two of us against all those godless men, Jonathan said, but the Lord can help a few soldiers win a battle just as easily as he can help a whole army. Perhaps the Lord will help us win this battle. Do whatever you want, the soldier answered. I'll be with you. This is what we will do. Jonathan said, we will go across and let them see us. If they agree to come down the hill and fight where we are, then we won't climb up to their camp. But we will go if they tell us to come up the hill and fight. That will mean the Lord is going to help us win. Jonathan and the soldiers stood at the bottom of the hill where the Philistines could see them. The Philistines said, look, those worthless Israelites have crawled out of the holes where they've been hiding. Then they yelled down to Jonathan and the soldier, come up here and we will teach you a thing or two. Jonathan turned to the soldier and said, follow me, the Lord is going to let us win. Jonathan crawled up the hillside with the soldier following him. When they got to the top, Jonathan killed the Philistines who attacked from the front, and the soldier killed those who attacked from behind. Before they had gone 30 meters, they had killed about 20 Philistines. The whole Philistine army panicked. Those in camp, those on guard duty, those in the fields, and those on raiding patrols, all of them were afraid and confused. Then God sent an earthquake, and the ground began to tremble. Israel defeats the Philistines. Saul's lookouts at Geba saw that the Philistine army was running in every direction like melted wax. Saul told his officers, "Call the roll and find out who left our camp." When they had finished, they found out that Jonathan and the soldier who carried his weapons were missing. At that time, Ahijah was serving as priest for the army of Israel, and Saul told him, "Come over here, let's ask God what we should do." Just as Saul finished saying this, he could see that the Philistine army camp was getting more and more confused, and he said, "Ahijah, never mind." Saul quickly called his army together, then led them to the Philistine camp. By this time, the Philistines were so confused that they were killing each other. There were also some hired soldiers in the Philistine camp who now switched to Israel's side and fought for Saul and Jonathan. Many Israelites had been hiding in the hill country of Ephraim, and when they heard that the Philistines were running away, they came out of hiding and joined in chasing the Philistines. So the Lord helped Israel win the battle that day. Saul's curse on anyone who eats. Saul had earlier told his soldiers, "I want to get even with those Philistines by sunset. If any of you eat before then, you will be under a curse." So he made them swear not to eat. By the time the fighting moved past Bethaven, the Israelite troops were weak from hunger. The army and the people who lived nearby had gone into a forest, and they came to a place where honey was dripping on the ground. But no one ate any of it because they were afraid of being put under the curse. Jonathan did not know about Saul's warning to the soldiers, so he dipped the end of his walking stick in the honey and ate some with his fingers. He felt stronger and more alert. Then a soldier told him, "Your father swore that anyone who ate food today would be put under a curse, and we agreed not to eat. That's why we're so weak." Jonathan said, "My father has caused you a lot of trouble. Look at me. I had only a little of this honey, but already I feel strong and alert. I wish you had eaten some of the food the Philistine left behind. We would have been able to kill a lot more of them." By evening, the Israelite army was exhausted from killing Philistines all the way from Michmash to Aijalon. They grabbed the food they had captured from the Philistines and started eating. They even killed sheep and cows' calves right on the ground and ate the meat without draining the blood. Someone told Saul, "Look, the army is disobeying the Lord by eating meat before the blood drains out." "You're right," Saul answered. "They are being unfaithful to the Lord. Hurry, roll a big rock over here. Then tell everyone in camp to bring their cattle and rams to me. They can kill the animals on this rock, then eat the meat. That way no one will disobey the Lord by eating meat with blood still in it." That night the soldiers brought their cattle over to the big rock and killed them there. It was the first altar Saul had built for offering sacrifices to the Lord. The army rescues Jonathan. Saul said, "Let's attack the Philistines again while it's still dark. We can fight them all night. Let's kill them and take everything they own." The people answered, "We will do whatever you want." "Wait," Ahijah the priest said, "let's ask God what we should do." Saul asked God, "Should I attack the Philistines? Will you help us win?" This time God did not answer. Saul called his army officers together and said, "We have to find out what sin has kept God from answering. I swear by the living God that whoever sinned must die, even if it turns out to be my own son Jonathan." No one said a word. Saul told his army, "You stand on that side of the priest, and Jonathan and I will stand on the other side." Everyone agreed. Then Saul prayed, "Our Lord, God of Israel, why haven't you answered me today? Please show us who sinned. Was it my son Jonathan and I, or was it your people Israel?" The answer came back that Jonathan or Saul had sinned, not the army. Saul told Ahijah, "Now ask the Lord to decide between Jonathan and me." The answer came back that Jonathan had sinned. "Jonathan," Saul exclaimed, "tell me what you did." "I dipped the end of my walking stick in some honey and ate a little. Now you say I have to die." "Yes, Jonathan, I swear to God that you must die." "No," the soldiers shouted. "God helped Jonathan win the battle for us. We won't let you kill him. We swear to the Lord that we won't let you kill him or even lay a hand on him." So the army kept Saul from killing Jonathan. Saul stopped hunting down the Philistines and they went home. Saul fights his enemies. When Saul became king, the Moabites, the Ammonites, the Edomites, the kings of Zobah, the Philistines, and the Amalekites had all been robbing the Israelites. Saul fought back against these enemies and stopped them from robbing Israel. He was a brave commander and always won his battles. Saul's family. Saul's wife was Ahinoam, the daughter of Ahimaaz. They had three sons, Jonathan, Ishbi, and Malchishua. They also had two daughters. The elder one was Merab, and the younger one was Michal. Abner, Saul's cousin, was the commander of the army. Saul's father Kish and Abner's father Ner were sons of Abiel, war with the Philistines. Saul was at war with the Philistines for as long as he lived. Whenever he found a good warrior or a brave man, Saul made him join his army.